Namaste, aloha, my name is Janapati Das. Thank you for tuning in to my videos. Today we are doing the Shri Ishopanishad, we've been reading through Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's purport, and as well as His Divine Grace Jagad Guru Swarupananda Srila Prabhupada, 18 Pearls of Vedic Wisdom, both based off the Shri Ishopanishad. And wonderful to have two pure devotees, wonderful souls, great devotees, great teachers to enlighten us on the Shri Ishopanishad. So I'd like to offer my respects to you. Thank you for tuning in. If you have already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please encourage your friends to subscribe as well and to like and comment on the videos. I have quite a bit of videos on the Krishna book and the Bhagavad Gita, and right now we're going to follow the instructions of our dear spiritual masters and to chant the names of Krishna as taught by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Parakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Krishnayate. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Parakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Parakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasthayate. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namo Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Bhaktivedanta. Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Hari Bol, Nitai Gol, Nitai Gol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gol, Nitai Gol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. I offer my respectful obeisances to Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada and to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So we are reading through the Shri Ishopanishad, and we're going to continue with mantra 6. Yes. Okay, so we're going to go back and, like we normally do, read through the verses starting from the invocation. Invocation. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because He is completely perfect, all emanations from Him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as the complete whole. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete by itself. And because He is the complete whole, even though so many units emanate from Him, He remains the complete balance. Mantra 1. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself which are set aside as his quota, and one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Mantra 2. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on doing work in that way, because that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma, and there is no alternative to this way for man. Mantra 3. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. Mantra 4. The personality of Godhead, although fixed in his abode, is more swift than the mind, and cannot overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place he has control over those who supply the air and rain, he surpasses all in excellence. Mantra 5. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well. He is within everything, and again, he is outside of everything. Mantra 6, Sanskrit. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanu pashyanti sarvabhuteshu chatmanan manam tato na vigupshate. Yaha, a person. Tu, but. Sarvani, all. Bhutani, living entities. Atmani, in relation with the Supreme Lord. Eva, only. Anushpashyati, observes in a systematic way. Sarva bhuteshu, in every living being. Cha, and. Atmanam, the supersoul. Tataha, thereafter. Na, not. Vijugupshate, hates anyone. Translation, Mantra 6. A person who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and sees all entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything nor any being. So, very wonderful, Mantra 6. Very akin to the prayer of Lord Jesus Christ to love the Lord God with your whole heart and whole being. And like unto it, second to it, one should love your neighbor as yourself. So this is a dilemma that is facing. How can we love humanity? How can people love each other like brothers and sisters? It's a very difficult thing because some people are very unlovable. How do you love an alligator? How do you love, Hitler? And it's explained here in this mantra that one who can see the Supreme Lord as he is, and within everything, parts and parcels, and all the living entities are his children. In truth, even the person who is in the greatest ignorance, doing the most harm to another person, the devotee of Krishna will still love that person. That we love the living entity. Let's make that differentiation. There's often a conflict about how people can be Christian or religious and be critical of the way that people act, whether they're engaging in a homosexual lifestyle or identifying as a different sex or as an animal or being a pedophile or being a murderer. The devotee still loves that living entity because he sees that person as a living entity, a child of God, completely in the ignorance and wrapped up in the painful and suffering condition of being lost in the material world and acting in a very heinous and evil way that will just ultimately cause them to have greater suffering in the future. So we don't hate people who engage in these things, but we definitely hate the activity because that they are engaging in that is actually causing them pain and suffering unbeknownst to them. And so the devotee tries to educate every living entity about their identity and or in other means gives people Krishna through chanting and whatnot. So this is a very wonderful verse, and it shows that anybody who actually hates another living entity and mistakens what they're hating, what they're doing that's causing them to being something of themselves that they hate, is actually also being in ignorance. So any so-called religious person who hates a person who's doing something that's heinous, whether it's abortion or homosexuality or things that will cause them pain, is actually in a great ignorance themselves. So, purport by Bhaktivedanta. Here is an explanation of the Maha Bhagavata, the great personality who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are 3 stages of realizing the presence of the Supreme Lord. The Kanishta Adhikari, the person who is in the lowest stage of realization of the Lord, goes to one place of worship, such as a temple, church, or mosque, in terms of its particular type of religious faith, and worships there in terms of the scriptural injunctions. Such devotees think that the Lord is there at the place of worship and nowhere else. Such devotees cannot recognize who is in what position in the devotional line or in terms of realization of the Supreme Lord. They follow the routine formulas and sometimes quarrel amongst themselves, estimating one particular type of worship better than another. So this is what we see pretty common, I'm a Muslim, the Muslims are right. I'm a Jew, the Jewish people are right. I'm a Christian, the Christians are right. I'm a Hindu, the Hindus are right. Everyone else is wrong. My God is the right God, your God is a false God. And as if there's all these gods, a pantheon of gods, fighting over whatever. But this is, a devotee doesn't see it in this way. Devotee sees that there is one absolute Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there are different particular consciousness for people who are in particular faiths. And this here is what they term the Kanista Adhikari, who is at the lowest stage of God realization. He's going through things, he's following a path, he has certain rules and regulations that help elevate his consciousness, and this is what's prescribed. Such devotees think that, such devotees cannot, I read that. They follow the routine formulas and sometimes quarrel among themselves, estimating one particular type of worship better than another. These Kanista Adhikaris, in the lowest stage of devotion, are called materialistic devotees, or those who are trying to transcend the material boundary to reach the spiritual plane. And oftentimes they confuse the idea of heavenly pleasure as the spiritual plane that they have to achieve, was actually an extension of their own elevationist to try to enjoy in the spiritual world. Next above these Kanista Adhikaris are the Majjham Adhikaris, the devotees who are in the intermediate stage of devotional service. These Majjham Adhikaris observe 4 principles in relation to the Supreme Lord, which are as follows. Number 1, they see, first of all, the Supreme Lord. Number 2, they see the devotees of the Lord. Number 3, they see also the innocent who have no knowledge about God. And at last, number 4, they see the atheist who have no faith in the Lord and who hate those in the devotional line. The Madhyamadikari devotee behaves differently towards the different above mentioned 4 principles. He adores the Lord, considering him the object of love, and he makes friendships with those who are in the devotional line. He tries to awaken the dormant love of Godhead in the hearts of innocent people, but he does not approach the atheists who deride at the very name of the Lord. Above the Madhyamadikari, there is the Uttama Adhikari devotee who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. He does not make any particular discrimination between the atheist and the theist, but sees in every one of them the part and parcel of God. He knows that there is no difference between a vastly learned Brahmana and a dog in the street, because both of them are of the Lord, although in different embodiments due to the different qualities of material action. The Brahman particle of the Supreme Lord has not misused the little independence given to him by the Lord, but the dog particle has misused his independence, and thus he has been punished by the laws of nature, being engaged in by the ignorant form of a dog. So in a previous life, he acted in a certain way, dog nature, eating, sleeping, mating, defending in a particular way that shaped a form of a dog around the living entity as a subtle covering. And then that was the form they took on. So there is a certain so-called spiritual paths who believe that you only evolve upward, and there's one time to evolve upward, and then you reach your supreme abode or whatever, the merging. It's usually monists, but that there is no decline in evolution of karmic reaction. But this is refuted by scripture and by the great authorities, that you're given an opportunity, you will naturally evolve. Animals will evolve upward to a human form of life. From the human form of life is the takeoff point to the spiritual world, potentially, if you act with the inquiry of who you are and what the purpose of your life is, and approach a spiritual master who will guide you then back to Krishna. If you are still acting like an animal, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, then you will devolve back down to another species. Without considering the respective actions of the Brahmana and the dog, the Uttama Adhikari tries to do good to both. And there's wonderful stories about dogs, Lord Chaitanya and the dog, who went back to the spiritual world by the grace of Lord Chaitanya. And I have a cat. We see animals all the time. We chant wherever we can because there are living entities present. We help them evolve. And so my cat, Nitai, has a name of Lord Nityananda. So every time we call him, he's hearing Krishna's names. He's not able to pick up the Shri Ishopanishad and discuss it with me. He doesn't have the capability of really understanding lectures, but he'll lie down and he'll hear the chanting that we play in our house, or we chant in the house. And so this is beneficial for him. And when he has to leave his body, we will play chanting for him. We'll put the tulsi beads on him like a devotee so he can leave and maybe take a human form of life or wherever Krishna wants to take him. But that is the role of the devotee. In fact, there was another really wonderful story that I once heard about Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and his disciples, in which his disciples planned this great outing. He wanted his disciples to invite people to come to a chant and food and whatnot and teachings to this park. And so they put up all these posters, and it came time, nobody showed up. And so they were all very sad, and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada showed up, and he said, "Why are you so sad?" And he said, "Well, Swamiji, we have worked really hard to try to attract, and nobody came." And he said, "What do you mean nobody came?" And he walked over to the tree, and he put his hands up, and he said, "Hari Bol!" And he said there are living entities all over the universe, not just in the human form of life. In fact, the human form of life is a very minuscule amount of living entities. There are living entities everywhere. You see them everywhere. The trees, the grass, and grass bodies, and tree bodies, and bug bodies, and microbe bodies, and bodies that we don't even know in different dimensions. I can hear the chanting of Krishna's names. So as a devotee, you know, I see the wild chickens. I always chant to them when I see them. I see animals all the time. When I sometimes I give the ducks and stuff some older Mahaprasadam when I go out to the quarry and or go out to the marsh and they're out there and they go eat the Mahaprasadam. So the point being is that, you know, we as devotees, we can help living entities all over. But the Uttama Adhikari understands that there's no differentiation, just the consideration of like identification of the body. Such a learned devotee of the Lord is not misled by the material bodies of the Brahmana and the dog, but he is attracted by the spiritual spark within the respective entities. Those who imitate an Uttama Adhikari in terms of the sense of oneness or fellowship, but who behave in terms of bodily relationships, are false philanthropists. Therefore, the concept of universal brotherhood must be learned from the Uttama Adhikari devotee of the Lord, and not from a foolish person who has no proper vision of the individual soul, and of the super soul, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Lord, which dwells everywhere. So the important point is that we approach the Uttama Adhikari spiritual master to help us be guided in our spiritual life and to develop the vision to be able to see and what to do to develop that vision. So if we try to pretend that we are an Uttama Adhikari, but we don't have the spiritual vision, then it actually is very hurtful for us spiritually. In this mantra of Shri Ishopanishad, it is clearly mentioned that one should observe or see. This means one must follow the previous acharya, the perfected teacher. Anuspashyati is the exact Sanskrit word in this connection. So we used that word, I think it was in here. Yeah, Anupashyati, observes in a systematic way. Anu means to observe. One should not try to see things as he does with the naked eye. The naked eye cannot see anything properly due to its material defectiveness. So we brought this up many times before, why the atheist, we do not see God with our eyes, material eyes. We must have spiritual vision to see God. And so the atheist or the scientist will often say, you know, where is God? I don't see God with my eyes. Like as if they're looking out in their telescope and God will be there and he pulls the curtain because he's like, hey, stop looking through my window or something, you know, like God's out there somewhere, you know. It's a completely ignorant and limited version of vision of what reality is about. The naked eye cannot see anything properly due to its material defectiveness. The eye is, you know, this little globular thing in our eye is not really the thing that actually sees. As my godbrother Acharya Das has described in many of his videos, it's just a portal that allows light to enter, and then there is certain things in your brain and in your eye that help send signals, electrical signals that go and then somehow project an image. But you know, the idea is, what are we really seeing and who is seeing it? That's a very kind of deep thing to think about. How do we see things? Who sees it? Who hears it? When we break down how the light is transferred, it still doesn't actually allow the image to be seen, or a person who is seeing. One cannot see properly unless one has heard from a superior source, and the highest source is the Vedic wisdom spoken by the Lord himself. The truth is coming in disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahma, from Brahma to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, and from Vyasa to many of his disciples. Formerly, there was no necessity of recording the message of the Vedas because people of earlier ages were more intelligent and had sharper memories, and they could follow instructions simply by hearing once from the mouth of a bona fide spiritual master. Now, that's pretty amazing. How many times do you tell your kids to say something and they're like, they don't remember, or somebody tells you something and what was that person's name, or you can't even remember. But in the age of Kali, that's how it goes. And Srila Vyasadeva, understanding that this is what would be happening in Kali Yuga, limited ability to remember things, just ignorance and agitated and angry, quarrel and confusion, wrote down everything, wrote down all the Vedas that were originally just handed down orally, and all these things, the Mahabharata, and all the stories and the Puranas, and everything was written down, including also eventually the Srimad Bhagavatam. At present, there are many commentaries on the revealed scriptures. Most of them are not in line of Srila Vyasadeva, who originally taught the Vedic wisdom. So we have this Vedanta Sutras that were also written down by Vyasadeva, but the conclusion of them are summarized in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we are all his living entities, part and parcels. Just like it says in this verse, right? Everything in relationship to Krishna, the Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all the living entities are parts in his parcels, minutely small, subject to illusion, but not the Supreme, and the purpose of serving and love Shri Krishna. What happened with monism and Shankaracharya was a different line of the Vedanta Sutras, which were actually their own interpretations, which were incorrect. So here it says the final and most perfect sublime work of Srila Vyasadeva is the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the correct commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So anybody who tries to tell you that the Vedanta Sutra tells us that God is impersonal, that we're all one, it's not supported, because as we will probably get to, because it's a very long volume of the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think we'll eventually get to starting those. That's really great. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, amazing adventure of spiritual knowledge. Similarly, there is the Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by the Lord himself and which was recorded by Vyasadeva. These are the more important of the many revealed scriptures, and any commentary which does not conform to the principles of the Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam is unauthorized. So that's laid out here, that there are many so-called scriptures that are unauthorized because they do not relate to what's being said in this verse, and they do not relate to the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, which conclude that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is complete symmetrical agreement with the Upanishads, Vedanta, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, no one should try to reach any conclusion about the Vedas without being instructed by members in the line of Vyasadeva, or at least those who believe in the personality of Godhead and his diverse energies. So it's a very important point, because one can be easily misled by these faulty interpretations that were handed down by the followers of Shankaracharya, and they continue to this day. People on the internet and on YouTube channels and TikTok, whatever, stating things that is monism, that is impersonalism, Mayavadism, Only one who is already in the liberated status, according to the Bhagavad Gita, can become an Uttama Adhikari devotee and can see everyone or everything as being his own brother. This cannot be seen by politicians who are always after some material gain. An imitation of this liberated status is to serve the outward body for fame or some such reward, but is not service to the spirit soul. Such imitators have no information of the spiritual world. The Uttama Adhikari sees the spirit soul of an entity and serves him as spirit, which includes matter automatically. Okay, so that's the end of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's purport. We're going to continue here with Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. And that was text 6. We will read the translation again. That person who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as parts and parcels of the Lord, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything, nor does he hate any being. Purport. The 6th mantra is a description of a person who has achieved the highest level of spiritual perfection. Such a person is sometimes referred to as a Mahabhagavat or Uttama Adhikari. The great disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami, commented in this connection that the real test of how advanced a person is spiritually is how he feels toward others and how he treats them. This is a fact. If a person's love for the Supreme Lord is perfect, then it will have expanded to all living beings. It's such a wonderful thing to, just be giving people love for understanding who they really are and trying to help educate people about how they can be happy and satisfied in just being a child of God without having to rely so much on their material desires or the material wishes or how they look. It's very wonderful. In a lower stage of spiritual advancement, a person may feel attraction and love for the form of the deity in the temple. Indeed, he may be very respectful and dedicated to the Lord, but he does not respect or love others. Such a person is called Kanista Adhikari. The late Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the modern world's foremost authority on the science of Bhakti Yoga, describes the position of the Kanista Adhikari in this way. The Kanista Adhikari is in the lower stage of realization. He goes to one place of worship, such as a temple, church, or mosque, according to his religious faith, and worships there according to scriptural injunctions. Such a devotee considers the Lord to be present at the place of worship and nowhere else. He cannot ascertain who is in what position in devotional service, nor can he tell who has realized the Supreme Lord. Such devotees follow the routine formulas and sometimes quarrel amongst themselves, considering one type of devotion better than another. These Kanista Adhikaris are actually materialistic devotees who are simply trying to transcend the material boundaries in order to reach the spiritual plane. And so there are a lot of references that my dear Srila Prabhupada has talked about when he's met people who have likened their experience in growing up in a Christian church or whatever, finding that it's surprisingly that people are imperfect all around you, that people are imperfect and that they're not all godly. This is what Bhaktivedanta Swami was saying, is that they cannot see the spiritual advancement. They cannot see that actually this is a child of God, but they are in a particular type of consciousness, one that may be completely self-serving, a lot of times self-serving. And I experienced that too, growing up as a Catholic, having an experience of several years of being a Muslim and going to the mosque, seeing people who were all about jihadism or materialism, going to a Hindu temple and seeing, people worshiping, and us, not really to judge people, but that's what happened in these situations that my spiritual master talked about, is they said they just there's no way that anyone could actually have, their conclusion was that anyone could actually know the absolute truth because everybody was imperfect. And that is what's being talked about here, is this limited version, and then therefore you put your own judgment on it, like is what people do in the material world. Is you know what I think, you know what I think. I don't think anyone can know the absolute truth, but I'm going to tell you the absolute truth, and that's my absolute truth because it's coming from me, So this is an unfortunate status, and I've come across it too with family members who are try to tell me the same kind of thing, but they make they say no one can have an absolute truth, everyone's subjective, and that statement by itself is an objective absolute truth statement to say that, so therefore you're contradicting yourself. While those who are in lower stage of spiritual realizations are called Kanista Adhikaris, those in the middle stage are called Majjhima Adhikaris. Those in the stage of realization have the following characteristics. 1, they see the Supreme Lord, so they have no doubt about his existence. They dedicate their lives to his service out of love. Number 2, they see the devotees of the Lord. Number 3, they see those who are ignorant of the Lord, but who are innocent and not inimical towards the Lord. Number 4, they see the atheists, those who reject the existence of God and who hate devotees of God. The Majjhima Adhikaris behave differently towards these different entities. He worships and serves the Lord with all his heart. He makes friends with and associates with those who are devoted to the Lord. He tries to enlighten those who are ignorant yet innocent. And although he is neither discourteous nor disrespectful to the atheist, he does not make close friendships with them or try to instruct or enlighten them. The Uttama Adhikari, who is in the highest stage of spiritual realization, sees no distinctions at all among different people. He does not discriminate between the atheist and a devotee of God. He sees all living entities as parts and parcels of the Supreme Living Entity and thus tries to do good to all. The love of such an advanced yogi expands to all beings. His love is non-discriminating and unconditional. Such a Mahabhagavat or Uttama Adhikari is not blind to the differences of bodies. For example, he recognizes differences between the bodies of cows, dogs, and humans, but he knows them to be external only. He sees that within the dog, cow, human, or other bodies is a spark of God, a spirit, soul, an eternal person who is part and parcel of the Supreme Person. A spiritually person does not see a devotee or a demon, a black or a white, a Chinese or an American, a general or a private, and so on. He sees through all such superficial designations to the person within, and he loves all persons. So, obviously, because people have particular nature, take on the nature of their body that they're in, it's not like they're going to go, like a pure devotee would go and hug a tiger, or although it happened with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, made animals chant, but they'll do what they can, but they're not ignorant into the fact that these living entities are influenced by their karmic reactions. He sees all persons as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and the same intense love that he has for God extends to all of God's parts and parcels. It is from such an Uttama Adhikari that the world can learn real brotherhood. Read that again. It is from such an Uttama Adhikari that the world can learn real brotherhood. So we're striving for peace. We're trying for peace. We don't know where peace can be found, but the devotee of Krishna can help bring about that. And he is a true saint and savior of the teacher for humanity, Jagad Guru. Such a spiritually advanced person is beyond sectarianism, fanaticism, and prejudice of any kind. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater outcast. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 18. A serious practitioner of bhakti yoga should desire to one day become an Uttama Adhikari. It is not a post or official position. It is the highest stage of spiritual consciousness, and it is the real goal of life. A person may achieve many goals, such as getting material wealth, fame, worldly knowledge, and so forth, but all such goals are illusory. They are temporary. Not only do they not bring satisfaction, but they must be left behind at the time of death. Thus, such illusory goals cannot be considered the real goal of life. The real goal of life is spiritual perfection, and the spiritual perfection is described herein in the 6th mantra of the Shri Ishopanishad. So wonderful, such clarity that the real goal of life is to come to understand who we are and what our purpose, our real purpose of life, not just trying to accumulate so many material things or try to go for a goal of, like, being the best of this or best of that, or this is okay if it's done in relation to, like I said, in relation to Krishna, right? A person who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, right? Who sees all living entities as parts and parcels of the Lord, who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything, nor does he hate any being. So we can actually, it's not like we're going to be yogis off in the forest with loincloths and just trying to renounce everything. But we renounce things by understanding our quota, as stated in the beginning of the Shri Ishopanishad, that everything animate and inanimate belongs to God. That God is this is the relationship to God. We give our life to God. We can still have families. We can still do wealth, but there is not going to be a striving for overconsumption, right? Or fighting over material wealth, things that are temporary. We can all strive for spiritual perfection. We can love each other truly as God. And then when we have to leave this world, we just leave our stuff and we just go back to Krishna. That's the way it goes. One last point, never try to imitate the characteristics of an Uttama Adhikari. Rather, engage in the bhakti yoga process with determination and be realistic about your present position. Good point. This is a great instruction by a bona fide spiritual master. Don't try to be like, there were those people who would dress like Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. They'd walk like him. They would lead people like him, this external kind of thing. We follow in the footsteps of our spiritual master in a humble state of mind, not feeling higher than anyone else, but feeling lower than the straw on the street. And we have to be realistic, we may want to try to be loving, but we may not feel that. And we have to be realistic about that and go inward to try to work on that. It's a working process, it's a path. And my spiritual master said, if you throw yourself down on the path and don't continue on the path, that's where you'll be. You have to make your effort. The spiritual master shows you where to go. You have to do take the effort to do it and to be realistic about where you are. You may be looking up ahead, like a traffic jam. You look ahead and you think, wow, that person is so far ahead of me. I'll never get up there, but you will with determination. We don't compare ourselves. We're just where we're at. We're either as a Kanista Adhikari or a Madhyama Adhikari. Whoever seriously follows the process of sadhana bhakti can actually achieve spiritual perfection. It's a wonderful thing, We always perfect our practice. We begin again. We're not perfect with our sadhana bhakti. We're not perfect with our japa. We're not perfect with our service to our spiritual master. But we always have to reflect on it. We have to say, how can I do better? What would be pleasing to Srila Prabhupada? How can I, do better for the sake of Krishna and my spiritual master, to please my spiritual master? So it doesn't become like, look how great I'm doing, I can chant 50 rounds and I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and take a cold bath and, I learned Sanskrit, and it's not about that. It's about your attitude. Whoever seriously follows the process of sadhana bhakti can actually achieve spiritual perfection. There it is from the mouth of the pure devotee. Only the lazy and the faithless will follow the path of imitation. So we shouldn't be lazy. You have to be vigilant. Can't be lazy in spiritual life. Honesty with oneself, God, and others is always the best policy. Yeah. Sincerity is the key ingredient to success in spiritual life. And when you're chanting, the more you chant, the more you try really hard, the more you realize how insincere you are. It's just like, and how you try to put on the garb of being very advanced, and it's just, then you realize as you polish that diamond, you see in the cracks of the dirt that you need to get out. Duplicity and hypocrisy have no place in the quest for spiritual perfection. Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. So, that being said, wonderful, wonderful verses from our dear spiritual masters, and thank you very much. We'll stop there.